introduce you to the purpose of technical writing. And then we want to share just 3 basic principles with you that hopefully would help to enhance your writing. Then we come, I think, to the core. It's some example texts that we have brought and want to have a look at and discuss with you. And then in the end, we want to wrap it up and, highlight once again why it matters. And then, of course, we have brought some links to further resources. And then we are open for your questions. And anyway, if you have questions in between, please feel free to raise them. Once again, can you hear me to the last row, or do I need to speak up? Okay? Good. Thanks.
So the intro is called The Purpose of Technical Writing. And so I would start with the expression that technical writing is often called simplifying the complex. So I'll just have a couple of paragraphs on why it's said this way. Indeed, it differs in some ways or in all the ways from other types of writing, such as scientific documentation, monographs, blogging, fiction, and everything else, because this is writing about a specific subject for a specific purpose and to a specific audience. So the main purpose of technical documentation as we see it is writing and simplifying things in a simple manner. This means that it must be clear, straightforward, and precise. So in other words, painless. If my writing is not clear, then our technical support guys will get more emails and support tickets, and we want to avoid that. So deriving from that, there are usually 2 common issues and problems that can be happening to technical documentation. First is that the authors assume that their readers have the same knowledge and they are on the same level as they are, and this is sometimes not the case. And second, it derives from the first one, is that it's not explanatory enough for readers who may be not on the same level. And so what we want to stress here is that the technical documentation is not just meant for developers. It also does a lot of good for other stakeholders in any company that may deal with medical, scientific, engineering, electronics, whatnot. And a lot of stakeholders in these organizations rely on technical documentation just from the developers who actually work on a product to marketers who sell it, and they also use technical documentation to know what they're talking about, and to end users who end up using it and paying for it. So at the end of the day, the purpose of technical writing and of documentation that actually works is to make life simpler for everyone who reads it. And for that, it needs to provide readers with simple, concise, and easily acceptable information. So now on to the 3 basic principles that we have defined, and Tanya will pick up the first one, which is called the perspective.
Yeah, for me, changing perspective is really the most principal, but maybe also the most difficult issue. So as we checked up front, we have many engineers here in the room. And if you look at this example, maybe you as engineers designed this Jaguar engine over here. And of course, you have a very deep and broad knowledge of that engine. However, what you maybe might forget is that your readers don't have, or not necessarily have, the same background. So what we need to do, if we are engineers especially, is really to transform our knowledge into technical documentation. It really means to step out of your shoes and step into your customer's shoes, because at the end of the day, what customers or readers would like to do, they maybe just want to drive the car. They need to know how to do some maintenance task, for example, that they need to do regularly, like checking or refilling oil. Or every once in a while, you might need to change a tire. So that's problems that our customers are facing, and what we can do is really to take this perspective and use this as the structure for our documentation, because at the end of the day, we need to answer the questions: which problems do they need to solve, and what are the tasks that they need to execute? And if we take this as a guideline, it really helps us to structure our documentation. Any questions on that one? Okay, then handing over to Daria.
Go on to the next one, please. Thank you. Yeah, so the next 2 slides, I think, are going to be devoted to organization of information in a written piece, in the article, or any other type of writing. And the second one is going to be about the language and style. That it's our recommendations to use for effective writing. So here are some points that we recommend to keep in mind. So one of the most prominent characteristics of technical documentation is generally that it is very, very structured. And it's structured in a way so that it's easy for users, again, to find what they're looking for without any issues, without looking for a long time. Because in the end, every documentation is written to solve someone's problems. So organizing the content smartly is key here, and for that, the first recommendation from us would be using the so-called inverted pyramid style. This is when you place the most important information at the beginning of your text, and then it gradually moves on to more details and less significant information at the end. This is because the world of technology is a very fast-moving place, and no one has much time to really delve into things, and we want readers to find necessary information quickly. And when they start reading, they get the main idea. And then if they're really interested, they stay on the page and they read into more details and get more information. But even if they leave the page, then they still get away with most important key information. We want to capture the reader's attention at first glance. To sum it up, it's better to always provide the most important information in the so-called outcome statement, which is simply the statement that tells users what they accomplish when they read, after they read your piece. Second recommendation is using so-called topics. It means just splitting your text and thinking about how you structure your text and split it into different topics so that it's more clear. It usually involves having concept first, which is talking about your product and defining it, explaining general things about it, and then going on to the task topic, which is usually the most sought after thing. It has procedures and step-by-step instructions, which are usually what users are looking for. Then we move to the reference topic that has all the accompanying information, could be versions, parameters, options you might need, and everything else. And then there's also glue. It's in square brackets because it's an optional thing, but it can be used with something like for more information, or let's go, what's next, or links to related things. The third recommendation on the structure is clear paragraphs, and it's the same principle. It's this inverted pyramid, so most important things are placed in the very first key sentence. And yeah, one idea per paragraph is enough. It's great. Because usually, as research has found out, users read the first sentence of each paragraph, and they usually scan documents, and that's why you need them to get away again with the most important information. And the structure of paragraph ideally would be some topic sentence, which is the most important sentence, shouldn't be overcomplicated with any unnecessary details, and then it develops into, it gets development and gets some more additional information, and then there's a conclusion, of course, and could be also transition to related topics. It's good to have up to 3 to 5 sentences at the most in each paragraph. And if you see that you're getting like more than 6 paragraphs in your text, it's better to think of also splitting it again into some subtopics, into some, and also respective subtitles for them. So this is so much for organizing. Are there any questions? Okay. So, and thank you. So yeah, on to the KISS. The good old KISS rule, it means keep it simple. And here always try to keep in mind this expression, plain English, because yeah, we write documentation, usually it originates in English language. So to keep it simple, it's very good to have your text visually conspicuous and to bring into focus what you want to bring into focus with prominent subheadings. It can be good to use some lists, so that some text boxes, so that it's not just a flow of text like you would see in War and Peace, for example, so that people really get key points and really get to really what they need to solve and then read into it. For this, also, we need to have really actionable points because we're solving someone's problems. And for this, active voice is best. It's direct and it's plain shorter for the text. So when we use passive voice, it really makes text a little bit longer and sometimes more confusing. It's more reading time in the end. So, for example, there's one example. I couldn't use all the examples I wanted, but yeah, thank you. So the zip file should be downloaded. When we have instructions, it's just imperative is enough. Download the zip file, and people know what to do. Should be downloaded and can be downloaded. Don't work here. But there's also one reservation that we always make for technical documentation about passive voice, that in fact sometimes, it's acceptable. For example, when we talk about error messages, when we talk about troubleshooting, we don't want to concentrate on whoever did a mistake, who had an error. We don't want to blame anyone. For example, if your build fails, you probably missed a bug there, so let's put it more leniently. Let's have something like a bug could have been missed. So this is passive voice is perfect here. And one more example would be when when we're not really interested in whoever performed any action, but we're interested in the object of this action. That, for example, the server must be configured in the network. So we're not interested in whoever configures, but we just want to know about the outcome, and because this is a prerequisite for something. Also, writing short and simple sentences. This is self-explanatory, but 20 and 25 words at maximum is best. We know that documentation can be lengthy, and so it's better to stick to simple tenses, some like simple present and simple past, and it's better to also avoid future tense if possible, because we don't want to promise like future things, sometimes at least. So like simple tenses would be not after you have installed this and that, do this, but like after you install, that's enough. And again, less reading time. And understandable language, the final point, we don't want to overcomplicate, because technical writing in IT is as complex as can get. And we don't want to overcomplicate. We want to have another unnecessary introductory words. We don't want to have complex prepositions that can be just safely replaced with something. And we need to explain things, at least the first time we use them. If you have a term and you suspect that it's not in everyone's realm, then it's better to explain it and then use it consistently. This is one of the biggest problems, that unfortunately a single page of text can have inconsistent terms or abbreviations, and so it's and also explaining abbreviations, acronyms, of course.
So we brought a real life example, actually. It's based on a real world example, and I'm not sure, is everyone familiar with GCC? What it is? Most of the people are, but as Daria said, We should explain abbreviations, and it's the GNU compiler collections for those who don't. And to give you some more context, our SUSE Linux Enterprise Code 11 ships with a GCC version 7 as a default compiler, but it dates back already to 2016. And that's why newer GCC versions are available from this development tools module that is mentioned in this headline here. But maybe before we go into it, if you look at this text, can you, maybe without going through it in detail, can you spot some issues already with this text? And if yes, I would invite you to please speak up. Yes?
It's too much for the first glance.
Yes?
Nothing is structured well.
Good point. It's too much at first glance, and it is not structured well. I fully agree. Any more issues? Yes?
Doesn't seem to be following the invariant pyramid. I would give a summary of what is going to be coming.
Yeah. Okay. Any more things? Yes?
It's kind of vague. If I was like, if my pipeline went down and I was trying to troubleshoot it, I would be frustrated reading this because it points me to like 3 separate articles. And it doesn't really solve my problem in the first couple of minutes, like second thing you read an article.
Exactly, and I think you mentioned a good point here. If you look at it, what it is, it's a troubleshooting type of information, but it does not clearly line out the issues or what to do to solve them. But maybe let's first of all see what works with this document, because I think, to be fair, there are a few things that really work. So for me, it at least has a somewhat meaningful title, if you know what this development tools module is about. And I think it is structured, it is at least structured in several paragraphs, but I fully agree there's no headline, there are no subdivisions here. And from my perspective, it still follows this inverted pyramid at least, but you're right, it does not give you what do I get if I read this text, but what it at least does, in the first paragraph, it gives you a general information, and then if you move further down to here, to this last paragraphs, then there are the 2 issues. So at least it goes from the general to the more specific. So I would say it's at least kind of inverted pyramid style, but I agree it doesn't give you what do I gain if I read the text. That's not clearly stated here, definitely. Okay, but we were still stuck with the positive things about this text. So what else we can see is that you see there's something written in green fonts, so that's parameter names or file names. And I think that's a good point. You can at least distinguish the parameter names from the actual text. And this is also something that makes it more readable and skimmable at first glance. At least you have to search for the instructions here, but I found some of them, and at least they are given in an active voice. It says, if you encounter such an error, you need to add the blah, blah, blah keyword. So it's at least active voice, and it is an instruction. But as we will see later, it's hard to find it in this text. And then somebody, I think, was pointing out this links to more information. So you have 3 links right at the beginning, and this is what we would see as a typical glue topic. You are showing the way to more information and where to find it. But actually also, I think that was one of the things that I see as a weak point, also as a point what does not work here. We have links, but we have them in the wrong position. Because what you do, the reader starts to read and you send them directly away to another document. So you don't keep them on the page, you don't keep them engaged. So the links are fine, but they are positioned at the wrong place. The sequence is not good here. That's what I would say. Then, as you also pointed out, there are no subheadings. So it's just one headline, and yeah, you are left to read through the text. Good luck in finding the instructions here. And we have a good example of a long and complicated sentence here. And let me find it. Yeah, it's right in this section here. So it says, this can happen if 2 or more C files include the same header file, which intends to declare a variable, but omits the extern keyword when doing so, inadvertently resulting in multiple definitions. So if you count that, that's 33 words. And what makes it a bit worse, actually, that there are two insertions included here. So first of all, the first one is the first one is here, which intends to declare a variable. The second one is but omits the extern keyword. So you have to pause and think. And I think this sentence definitely needs to be rewritten because it doesn't give you, it's very long and it has, with the 2 insertions, it just interrupts your train of thought. That's what I'm saying. So what else? As we already saw, there are instructions hidden in the text, and there are 3 of them. So we already talked about the one, and there's another one down here. You should therefore pay special attention, another instruction, and there are more. But as I said, they are really hidden. And that's why we tried to give you one revision, a revised version of this text. So we have the original text on the left-hand side and our revision on the right-hand side. And what you can spot at first sight is the revision is longer. But we would argue it's way better structured. There's less continuous text. It has more subdivisions, and you can, from the subheadings, you already know, okay, this is about a certain issue, because the 2 issues that were mentioned before is that can happen with the newer GCC version is this here. You have a multiple definition of variables. And the second issue is here, control flow issues that you might run into with GCC 8. So we tried to point it out. We have an introduction at the beginning. Then we mentioned the 2 problems that can occur here. And for each of the problems, we have added a step-by-step procedure how to avoid those problems. So, and also down here, we have a little bit more of an introduction here, but then we also come down to how to avoid these issues. And then you see for more information, we put it at the end of the text. And this is where it should belong, because then you keep readers on the same page. Let's move on.
Thank you. Yes, so we thought it would be interesting to experiment with AI and to see what it produces. And the title of this piece is, it's this topic, and I need to read it. So the task is taken from the real support knowledge base. This is the use case where you need to resize the Btrfs root volume in a SUSE Linux micro installation when it runs out of disk space. So it's in our knowledge base. So when we were giving this task to AI, we didn't come up with any particular and specific prompt. We wanted to make it harder for AI. And was precisely, the title was something that was put in the prompt for it to create this short piece. So we just asked for a professional short piece on this particular task. But I want to have a side note here, just on the margin, that we have, in our documentation team, we have already developed specific prompts that can be also used when working with AI, and they contain a lot of things that we really want to see for AI to help us, such as specific language style, terminology from our own glossary, and formatting, layout. I mean, this is yeah, this is generally a very good thing as it is. So these prompts can also be added to any text editor, such as VS Code that we use, for example. And yeah, then the output would be really different, I would say. But this is what I think. So this is the article that I think it was Gemini, produced for us. And so what we see here is that it uses very good structure. It uses subtitles. It focuses on the steps for the procedure when it tells you how you could solve this problem of expanding the root volume. And generally speaking, AI is very good at formatting a layout. You don't need to care about this anymore. It does this for you. Generally, it has an abstract, so this is also a good thing. It uses the inverted pyramid. And yeah, so the formatting and the logical focus on things you need to do is okay. Okay, but of course, I'm not a professional in that, especially for expanding Butterfield's root volume. And I consulted our writers and technicians, and this is the main point. So I'm coming down now to what is not working, really, is that the feedback that I got from our writers is that you really need to check and recheck again all the important details, such as commands and prompts and options you might use. So first of all, yeah, it highlights in green, it does highlight the some commands that it recommends using. But these commands go without any options and parameters. And so it's meant for those who really know what they're doing. And this is, yeah, this could be critical, especially for root volumes that as I understand it. So, for example, in our documentation, we usually use, we always use prompts that tell you if it's root privileges, for example, or not, and that tell you what options you use. So, and also, this makes it easy for any user to just copy and paste it into their system, and they don't need to really figure out what they do. In the abstract at the beginning, I would want it to state the problem more clearly. So in the knowledge base, for example, that was written by our engineers, it was said that it runs out of disk space. That's why you really need to expand. And here it's a bit more generic, and yeah, I would want to see this. Then it mentions something like in the first paragraph, traditional resizing, and somewhere down there it mentions alternative things. Yeah, alternative methods in this. Let me show.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah. Thanks.
Oh no.
Okay.
I switched. Yep.
Yeah, there's also a modification by us following. So it mentions this traditional resizing, and then it says alternative methods. I'm not satisfied with that because I think you also, if you're using these terms, these words, you just really would like to say what is defined by traditional and alternative. This is, again, something that people are supposed to know or figure out themselves. This is very vague. So, yeah, I talked about the commands. And then the most important part, the expansion of the partition itself. It says, expand the virtual disk through your hypervisor. And on your physical machine, you might need to use things. So, I mean, this is not clear enough, and this is probably the most important point. And then also there is this warning that is given at the end. Someone might have already started or doing something, and the warning is very important here. What else is there? Yeah, language is really good, I should say. But again, the the wording could be really more direct. Something like you might use, it doesn't work. I mean, it's really confusing. Or you can do this and that. This is also only when when you're listing options, then yeah. But if you're just really giving an instruction, you just don't say you can use this. I mean, this is not, documentation is not the place where you have some vague constructions. So we reworked this, and we tried really hard to fit it in the slide. So again, as this is probably a tendency. It's longer, but it's only longer in sort of the length. But but instead it contains the information that we find would be really proper. So we're giving commands, we're giving prompts, we're stating whether you need root privileges or not, and you do. And we run the warning before you say resize and do this. So this is the warning. It has to be placed all the time. So this is the note, and this is also something because I forgot to say in the AI part it says in some cases this command can be used, and you don't know in which cases. I mean, well, I am out of the question doing this anyway, but anyway, someone might be not knowing that. So, and then we decided to dwell on these cases as well as we could. This is the reworked text. And mainly from the feedback from writers and generally, I would like to just say that AI takes information from the documentation, really. So our documentation, in the first place, needs to be correct. This is very, very important because, well, for this it can be fatal consequences, really, and if you really do something wrong and you don't know what you're doing. So for AI to be correct and to stay and to provide good information, our documentation needs to be correct and needs to be clear again. Then takeaways.
So from our perspective, because as Daria pointed out in the beginning, we put, in order to make it easy for the readers, we as writers and everything contributing documentation are putting a lot of effort into it. But why does it matter? Because documentation that is easy to understand and process not only helps with chatbots, of course, that's the one thing we talked about, but also for a global audience. So imagine your readers of the text are not fluent in that language they read the document in. So it helps them if we use clear and simple words, if we have a clear structure. Also think of translations. If you hand over a source text to get it translated into multiple languages, and the terminology is confusing or the sentence structure is confusing, you will get translators' question as well because they don't have this deep and broad knowledge that we as engineers might have. And then it enhances the customer satisfaction, of course, if we make the documentation more clear and more easy to understand and process, because we are running, at SUSE, we are running documentation customer service frequently, and we really, with the effort we put into the docs, we really saw that the customer satisfaction with our documentation went up quite a bit. And also what we found out in the surveys, that a lot of deciders who are not customers yet use the documentation also as part of their buying decisions. So before they even take the decision if to use SUSE's products or anybody else's products, they have the chance to look at the documentation because it's there on the web, and they can see, okay, that's explained well enough, or that's how broad the solution is, and they really, more than 12% of them take it also as a buying decision. So I think that's a lot of good reasons to really put some effort in it and make it all work. And thanks, I think we are running out of time. So maybe just some last hints.
Just real quick, this is the resources that we maintain as the documentation style guide. It's it's generally docbook based, but it's, for whoever is interested in writing in XML and ASCII doc as well. There's a lot of things about layout and how to use tags and elements and stuff. And we also maintain the terminology database that has correct and official names of products and terms and other things that we use in documentation, and also it's a company-wide database, so there's different terms there. It's called TermWeb. So these are two things we would like to recommend.
Okay, I think we did the Q&A part mostly, I guess. But if there are more questions, maybe just come
3 minutes.
come to our booth. No, I think we are done already.
Yes.
Please, we have a booth here in the technology showcase. Please visit us there. There you can also participate in the next documentation survey, which will give us valuable feedback. And you can always talk to us there and contact us, of course. And there are also, these are the list of the other documentation tracks who are on this conference, and that we would be happy if you visit them. But last but not least, thank you for being such an engaged audience. It really was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.